There comes a moment in every life when you either wake up and decide to live fully, or you keep drifting through the same motions day after day, waiting for some perfect moment that never comes. But here's the truth: your time is running out. The clock doesn't stop because you hesitate. The world doesn't wait for your fear to fade. Every second you spend doubting yourself is a second stolen from the life you could be living with fire, with intensity, with passion. You were not designed to merely survive, you were created to ignite. You've got this divine energy inside you that's been buried under comfort, distraction, and hesitation. And until you decide to unleash it, you'll never feel truly alive. So today isn't just another day, it's the line in the sand. Today you make the decision to stop existing and start living with passion.
Not someday, not.
Every one of us was born with a spark, a raw, unfiltered, unstoppable energy that once made us believe anything was possible. But somewhere between chasing responsibilities, meeting expectations, and trying to fit in, that spark started to dim. We traded wonder for worry, power for permission, and drive for distraction. The truth is, life doesn't extinguish your fire all at once. It does it slowly, through routines, comfort zones, and the quiet acceptance of good enough. You wake up one day and realize you're running through the motions, not living with meaning. But that fire is still there. It's not gone. It's buried, waiting for you to remember what it feels like to be fully alive. For men, the fire fades when they stop challenging themselves, when they forget that strength isn't about control, but about purpose. Too many men are living in quiet frustration, feeling caged by expectations they never chose. They confuse exhaustion with achievement and silence with strength. They've been told to suppress emotion, to stay logical, to provide, but not to feel. The result, they lose touch with their own drive, their passion, their hunger to create, to conquer, to protect what matters deeply. The fire within a man dies not from weakness, but from disconnection, from losing the why behind everything he does. For women, that same fire often gets smothered under the weight of perfection. They carry the pressure to be everything, powerful yet gentle, ambitious yet graceful, fearless yet kind. In trying to meet everyone's expectations, they sometimes forget their own. But there's something extraordinary about a woman who rediscovers her fire, a force of nature that doesn't ask for permission, doesn't wait for approval, and doesn't apologize for her power. When a woman reconnects to that inner spark, she doesn't just transform her life, she sets a new standard for everyone around her. The fire within you is not an external gift, it's an internal decision. It's a choice to stop tolerating mediocrity. It's the moment you look at your reflection and say, this is not who I am meant to be. You can feel it, that restlessness in your chest, that whisper that says, there's more. That's your inner fire calling you back to life. And every time you ignore it, it burns a little quieter. Every time you act on it, it roars back to life with force and clarity. Passion doesn't return through luck, it returns through action. You reignite that fire by pushing into discomfort, by doing what you know you've been avoiding. Because the same energy that fuels fear can fuel freedom. The only difference is where you direct it. Step into the challenge. Speak the truth you've been swallowing. Chase the vision that scares you. Every bold move is oxygen to your fire. The moment you stop playing small and start showing up like your life actually matters, that's when passion stops being a word and becomes your state of being. There's a reason you feel alive when you take risks, when you love deeply, when you fight for something meaningful. That's your soul remembering what it was designed for. You weren't made for safe, predictable, average days. You were made to create impact, to feel intensity, to live fully. That fire inside you is your reminder that life is not meant to be endured. It's meant to be experienced. And until you awaken it, you're only living half your story. Comfort is seductive. It whispers to you that you're safe, that you've earned the right to slow down, that things are fine. But comfort is the silent killer of growth, of passion, of clarity. It convinces you that you're satisfied when deep down you're not. It dulls the edge that once made you unstoppable. The truth is, when you choose comfort too often, you lose the very hunger that gives your life direction. Every dream, every breakthrough, every revolution of the human spirit was born in discomfort, in that sacred space where uncertainty forces you to decide who you really are. Clarity doesn't come when everything feels easy. It comes when life tests you, when you're stretched to the point where excuses don't work anymore. For men, clarity is often buried under the weight of expectation. They've been told that success means control, stability, and strength. But what if strength isn't about holding everything together? What if it's about letting go of who you think you're supposed to be and rediscovering who you actually are? When a man steps out of the comfort of certainty and into the chaos of truth, he finds clarity. He begins to see that real leadership isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about showing up raw, honest, and willing to fight for something that sets his soul on fire. For women, comfort often takes the form of pleasing everyone else before themselves. They build routines that look stable on the outside but feel empty on the inside. They spend so much time nurturing others that they forget to nurture their own dreams. But when a woman decides to step beyond the comfort of being needed and chooses instead to be fulfilled, she discovers an entirely new level of clarity. She realizes her worth doesn't depend on approval. It's anchored in her vision, her values, her voice. And once she finds that clarity, her commitment becomes unstoppable, not because she has to, but because she's finally living in alignment with who she is. Comfort clouds your vision because it keeps you in patterns that don't challenge you. The mind becomes foggy when it's never tested. Clarity is forged in the fire of discomfort, in the discipline of asking hard questions, making tough choices, and staying true even when it hurts. You can't see your future clearly when you're sitting in the same old chair, surrounded by the same distractions, telling yourself you'll start tomorrow. You see clearly only when you move, when you shake things up, when you trade the illusion of control for the reality of growth. Commitment is born in that same space. It's not a feeling, it's a decision that doesn't care about your mood. Comfort tells you to quit when it gets tough. Commitment tells you to show up no matter how you feel. It's the difference between dabbling and mastering, between wanting and doing. The moment you stop negotiating with your limitations, you reclaim power. You stop saying, I'll try, and start saying, I will. Every time you honor a commitment to yourself, your confidence multiplies, your clarity sharpens, and your passion deepens. The psychology behind passion isn't mystery, it's momentum. The more you act with purpose, the clearer your path becomes. The more you move, the more the fog lifts. But the moment you slow down, the comfort creeps back in and numbs your drive. That's why you can't wait for motivation, you have to generate it. You have to make a conscious trade, your temporary comfort for your permanent clarity. Because the life you want doesn't live in the easy zone. It lives just beyond the edge of your comfort, where your next breakthrough is waiting to be claimed. Energy is not something you find, it's something you generate. It's not about luck, age, or circumstances. It's about state. The difference between those who live with passion and those who simply exist isn't talent or opportunity, it's energy. Energy is the foundation of every emotion, every action, every decision you make. When your energy is high, your mind expands, your creativity flows, your courage increases. But when your energy drops, everything feels heavy, problems look bigger, options look smaller, and even small challenges feel impossible. You cannot live with passion if you don't first command your energy. Most people treat energy like it's random, as if it depends on sleep, food, or mood. But energy is a choice. It's a decision you make with your focus, your physiology, and your attitude. You either take control of it or let the world drain it from you. When you wake up tired, it's not just your body that's fatigued, it's your spirit that's untrained. Passion requires conditioning. You must condition your energy the same way an athlete conditions their body, with repetition, intention, and intensity. Every time you choose movement over laziness, gratitude over complaint, action over hesitation, you're commanding your energy to serve your vision instead of your fears. For men, energy is deeply tied to purpose. When a man lacks direction, his energy collapses. He starts reacting instead of leading. He numbs himself through distraction, routine, or comfort because he's disconnected from something worth fighting for. But the moment a man locks onto a vision, a mission that challenges, and his energy transforms, you can see it in his posture, in his eyes, in the way he walks into a room. His body follows his intention. That's because masculine energy thrives on progress, on pursuit, on creation, on conquest of meaningful goals. Without that, he doesn't just feel tired, he feels lost. And no amount of rest can fix that. What restores his vitality isn't sleep, it's significance. For women, energy is linked to alignment. When a woman is living out of sync with her values, when she's giving endlessly but receiving nothing back, her energy begins to fade. She feels drained not because she's weak, but because she's disconnected from her source. Feminine energy is deeply intuitive. It flows when there's emotional truth and dies when there's disconnection. When a woman honors her boundaries, speaks her truth, and nurtures her inner world with the same devotion she gives to others, her energy returns in waves. She glows differently because she's no longer leaking power through guilt, fear, or overextension. Alignment creed follows focus. Where your attention goes, your emotion flows. If you constantly focus on what's missing, what's wrong, or what's unfair, your body mirrors that negativity. You slump, your breathing shallows, your tone flattens. You literally embody low energy. But when you focus on what's possible, what's good, what's within your control, your body shifts instantly. Your shoulders lift, your chest opens, your breath deepens. Your entire state changes. That's not magic, that's mastery. You have the power to shift your state in seconds, not through words, but through action. Move your body differently and your energy will follow. The secret is to stop waiting for energy and start commanding it. Don't ask, how do I feel? Ask, what do I want to feel? And then create it. Jump, shout, move, breathe, change your physiology, and your mind will obey. This is how you break the cycle of lethargy that kills passion. You don't wait for motivation to act, you act to create motivation. Energy doesn't show up for those who hope, it shows up for those who move. Every single day you're making micro decisions that either charge or drain you. What you eat, what you listen to, who you spend time with, what thoughts you entertain, these are fuel choices. You can't feed your mind with negativity and expect high energy. You can't stay around people who complain and expect inspiration. Protect your energy like your life depends on it. Because it does. Energy is contagious. Every human interaction is an energy exchange. When you walk into a room, you either lift it or you lower it. People don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel. And that feeling comes from your energy. If you're flat, disconnected, distracted, no one feels inspired. But when you show up fully alive with conviction and vitality, you ignite others just by being yourself. That's the true power of energy. It doesn't just change your life, it multiplies through every person you touch. The greatest mistake people make is believing they need to feel ready before they can rise. Readiness is an illusion. Energy doesn't come from certainty. It comes from movement. You move first and clarity follows. You act first and passion grows. You commit first and energy floods your system. That's the pattern of every extraordinary life, act, adapt, advance. The moment you realize energy is not a resource but a responsibility, everything shifts. You stop chasing motivation and start commanding momentum. Because in the end, your energy is the loudest message you send to the world. And it's the one thing you can choose every single day. Excuses are the chains that keep potential prisoners of comfort. Every time you tell yourself you can't, you're building a wall around your own greatness. Excuses sound reasonable, they sound logical, even protective, but they are lies dressed as safety. They whisper that you'll try later, that you're not ready, that the timing isn't right. But the truth is, excuses don't protect you, they poison you. They eat away at your drive until you start believing your own limitations. The moment you stop making excuses, everything you've been waiting for becomes possible. Because the only thing that's ever been standing in your way is the story you keep telling yourself. The psychology behind excuses is simple. It's fear disguised as logic. It's the mind's way of avoiding discomfort, of staying in control, of preserving the ego. For men, this fear often takes the shape of pride. Men are taught to appear strong, capable, unshakable. So when they fail, when they fall short, they don't admit fear. They create justifications. I didn't have time. It wasn't the right opportunity. I could have done it if I wanted to. These are the invisible walls that separate men from their own potential. The truth is, no man ever became strong by protecting his ego. Real strength comes from admitting the truth, that you're scared, uncertain, imperfect, and doing it anyway. When a man destroys his excuses, he reclaims his power to lead to love and to live with fire again. For women, excuses often hide behind guilt and self-doubt. They've been conditioned to overthink, to second guess, to prioritize others' needs above their own. They'll say, I can't focus on myself right now, or it's not the right time, or I'm not ready yet. But beneath those words lies the fear of being seen, of being judged, of stepping into their full strength and shaking the world around them. When a woman drops her excuses, she steps out of permission and into purpose. She stops waiting for validation and starts moving from conviction. That shift is magnetic. It changes her energy, her confidence, and the way the world responds to her. Because once she stops explaining why she can't, she starts showing what she can. Excuses are comfortable because they allow you to fail without feeling responsible. They give you a way out, a soft landing when you don't give your best. But every excuse you accept steals a piece of your identity. It teaches your brain that mediocrity is acceptable. Over time, that becomes who you are, someone who almost did it, someone who about two, someone who could have, if the danger isn't in failing, it's in making peace with not trying. Excuses create an illusion of control, but in reality, they hand your power to circumstance. The moment you start saying, this is my responsibility, everything changes. You stop waiting for luck and start building momentum. The key is awareness. You can't destroy what you won't acknowledge. You have to catch yourself in the act. The second you hear your inner voice say, I don't have time, ask yourself, is that true or comfortable? The moment you hear, I'm not ready, replace it with, I'll learn by doing. Excuses don't survive in the presence of honesty. When you tell yourself the truth, even when it hurts, you break the illusion that's been holding you back. That's where discipline starts, not in the gym, not in business, but in your conversations with yourself. Excuses live in emotion, not logic. When you're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, your brain looks for reasons to protect you. It will tell you it's okay to skip the workout, delay the decision, or settle for less. That's when you need to become the commander of your own mind. Stand up, breathe deep, and remind yourself that your emotions are not your master. They're your messengers. Listen, but don't obey. Passion doesn't come from comfort, it comes from pushing through resistance. The moment you act in defiance of your excuse, you create a surge of power that builds unstoppable momentum. Excuses will always appear dressed as reasons, but deep down you'll know when you're lying to yourself. You'll feel that sting of regret in your chest, that quiet whisper that says, you could have done more. That voice is your truth trying to break through the noise. Listen to it, because the more you silence it, the more numb you become to your own potential. But when you act on it, when you take responsibility for everything, even what isn't your fault, you move from victim to creator. You stop reacting to life and start directing it. Every person who's ever lived with passion has had the same choice given to excuses arise through them. They weren't fearless, they were disciplined. They learned that courage isn't the absence of excuses, it's the mastery over them. You'll never get rid of that inner voice that wants to play small, but you can decide whose voice gets the final word. The moment you stop arguing for your limitations, you start living your liberation. The mind will always find a reason to hesitate, but your heart, your fire, it's waiting for you to move anyway. And when you do, you'll remember that you were never average to begin with. You just stopped believing in the power that's been inside you all along. Playing it safe is the most dangerous thing you can do with your life. Safety feels comforting, it feels predictable, it feels like control. But in reality, it's slow decay, it's a quiet surrender disguised as stability. The truth is, most people aren't afraid of dying, they're afraid of truly living. They trade the unknown for the familiar, even when the familiar is killing their spirit. They build walls around their potential and call it security. But what's the point of safety if you're not alive inside it? The slow death of safety is the silent epidemic of our time. Millions of people existing, breathing, functioning, but disconnected from the pulse of passion that once made them unstoppable. To live boldly, you have to first accept that comfort and growth cannot coexist. You can't evolve while staying wrapped in the same routines, the same fears, the same circle of approval. Growth requires friction, the push, the uncertainty, the risk of falling flat on your face. Most people never live boldly because they're waiting for the perfect moment when they'll feel ready, but that moment never comes. Readiness isn't a feeling, it's a decision. You decide to leap and the confidence comes midair. Boldness is not recklessness, it's the courage to act despite fear. The bold don't lack fear, they simply refuse to let it dictate the size of their life. For men, living boldly means rediscovering their warrior spirit, not through domination, but through purpose. Too many men have been conditioned to chase success while avoiding vulnerability. They seek control instead of connection, approval instead of authenticity. But boldness begins when a man decides to live truthfully. When he stops performing for the world and starts pursuing what sets his soul on fire. When he admits what scares him and does it anyway. That's the raw courage that reignites masculinity. The willingness to risk comfort, to step into uncertainty, to fight for something real. A man who lives boldly becomes magnetic, not because of his power, but because of his presence. For women, living boldly means breaking the invisible rules that say, be nice, stay small, don't rock the boat. Boldness for women is an act of rebellion, not against others, but against the voice inside that says she's too much, too loud, too ambitious. When a woman dares to speak her truth, chase her vision, and take up space without apology. She becomes unstoppable. Her boldness doesn't come from proving herself, it comes from owning herself. It's the quiet power in her eyes when she knows she's walking her own path, even if it's uncertain, even if it's uncomfortable. That's the energy that changes rooms, relationships, and entire generations. Bold living demands risk, not necessarily physical risk, but emotional and psychological risk. It means opening yourself to failure, rejection, and uncertainty. But the real risk is not in taking action, it's in what happens if you don't. Every time you hold back, a part of you shrinks. Every time you silence your voice, your confidence weakens. The safest path is the one that slowly erodes who you are. You can play small for a lifetime, but it will cost you the one thing you can never get back, your fire. The people who live with passion are not the ones who never fell. They're the ones who decided they'd rather bruise their ego than betray their soul. Boldness is built in moments of decision. It's in that split second when fear says, wait, and your heart says, go. It's not about being fearless. It's about being honest. The bold understand that fear is simply energy looking for direction. They channel it, they use it, they turn that anxiety into movement, that hesitation into momentum. The moment you act despite fear, your brain rewires. It learns that fear isn't fatal. That single action becomes a new identity, one where courage is the baseline, not the exception. You train boldness like a muscle: repetition, resistance, resilience. Living boldly also means redefining failure. Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the evidence that you're trying. The average person avoids risk because they equate failure with shame. But failure is feedback, it's data, it's direction. Every setback you face teaches you what doesn't work so you can double down on what does. Bold people don't avoid pain, they extract power from it. They understand that every scar is a story of movement, of courage, of effort. And while the safe are busy analyzing, what if, the bold are already creating results. Safety will always whisper, stay here, it's easier, but easy never built a legacy, easy never ignited a revolution. Easy never filled a heart with meaning. When you live boldly, you begin to experience life in color again. You feel intensity, connection, passion, purpose. You stop walking through life half awake and start running toward it full speed. That's what it means to live with passion, to choose risk over routine, to choose growth over comfort, to choose life over safety. Because while comfort keeps you alive, only boldness makes you feel alive. Passion isn't something you stumble upon, it's something you decide to live by. Too many people treat passion like a feeling that comes and goes, like a spark that flickers only when life is exciting or easy. But passion isn't a mood, it's a muscle. You train it through discipline, through intensity, through consistency. The difference between those who live inspired and those who live indifferent isn't luck, it's standards. Passionate people don't wait to feel good before they act until they feel good. They don't rise because of emotion, they rise because of commitment. When passion becomes your standard, you no longer rely on motivation, you create it. The problem is, most people live emotionally bankrupt because they let their moods dictate their performance. They only give their best when it's convenient, when things are smooth, when the conditions feel right. But life doesn't reward moods, it rewards momentum. Passion dies when it's dependent on circumstance. If your energy, effort, and focus change with how you feel, you'll never build anything lasting. The truth is, passion thrives on consistency, not convenience. It's born in the moments you push through fatigue, frustration, and fear. That's when it stops being something you feel and becomes something you are. For men, this shift from mood to standard is about reclaiming direction. Too many men start strong but fade fast because their fire depends on how the world treats them. They'll work hard when they're appreciated, lead when they're respected, love when they feel understood. But that's not leadership, that's reaction. Real strength is when you bring passion even when nobody claps, when you stay driven even when it's silent, when you show up not for validation but because it's who you are. When a man raises his standard high enough, he no longer waits for inspiration, he becomes the source of it. His actions stop being conditional. His consistency becomes his identity. For women, turning passion into a standard means breaking the cycle of emotional exhaustion. Many women give everything, their energy, their care, their creativity, but they often forget to give themselves structure. They ride emotional highs and lows because they tie passion to approval, progress, or perfection. But true power comes when a woman no longer depends on how she feels or how she's perceived to bring her best. When she decides that passion is her daily baseline, not something earned, not something borrowed, her energy stabilizes, her confidence grows, and her influence expands. She becomes unshakable because her passion isn't a mood swing, it's her natural state. Passion as a standard starts with personal accountability. You can't expect consistent energy from an inconsistent routine. You can't demand peak emotion while feeding yourself average habits. The people who live with relentless passion have rituals that keep their fire alive: movement, reflection, focus, gratitude. They treat their energy as sacred and their time as priceless. They don't hope for high performance, they design for it. Every morning, they decide who they're going to be before the world decides it for them. Passion isn't about intensity for one day, it's about identity for every day. The secret is understanding that passion doesn't come from doing what's easy, it comes from doing what's meaningful. When your standards are high, your life starts aligning around them. You stop tolerating what drains you, the half efforts, the toxic energy, the excuses. You start surrounding yourself with people and environments that fuel your drive. You begin to expect more from yourself than anyone else ever could. That's how passion becomes sustainable. It's no longer something you chase, it's something you embody. The stronger your standards, the steadier your fire. Most people never make this leap because they confuse excitement with passion. Excitement fades, passion sustains. Excitement depends on what's happening around you. Passion depends on what's happening within you. It's easy to feel alive when things are new. A relationship, a business, a dream. But the real test is when it gets routine, when the applause fades, when the thrill is gone. That's where standards separate the amateurs from the extraordinary. When passion becomes a way of life, not a temporary high, you become unstoppable. You no longer need the world to light you up. You walk in as the flame. The greatest performers, leaders, lovers, and creators live by one truth: passion is a choice. Repeated daily, it's the decision to stay present when it's hard, to give when it's inconvenient, to believe when it's uncertain. When passion becomes your standard, you raise the temperature of your entire life. You speak differently, move differently, think differently. You stop waiting for the right time because you understand the only right time is now. Every day becomes an opportunity to express the best in you, not because you have to, but because it's who you've chosen to be. Passion isn't an emotion you visit, it's a home you live in. And once you build your life at that level, you'll never go back to average again.